All right, returning to our top story tonight, the Constitutional Court ruling that President Cyril Ramaphosa did not deliberately mislead Parliament on the 500,000 Rand Bosasa donation. The court has dismissed the Public Protector's appeal of the North Gauteng High Court, that ruling setting aside the CR17 Bosasa donation report. Justice Chris Jafta, delivering the judgment earlier, said that Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane got the facts and the law wrong. For some analysis on today's judgment handed down by the ConCourt, we're joined by political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Benjamin Breakfast and legal analyst and MD at Dubazana Attorneys, Nthabiseng Dubazana. Let's start with you then. Can we start with the Public Protector? We'll look at the implications for her and then the implications for the President and other implications. Do you, firstly, as a lawyer, have questions when so many court judgments have said that our Public Protector is getting the facts wrong or the law wrong?
Yes, I must say that it puts us in a very interesting dilemma, whether or not we can say that the person that was given that specific position or the chair understands the interpretation of the law thereof. It can't be that so many different and various judges and courts can say the one and the same thing. There has to be at least one or two that will be on her side that can vindicate her and say that, in our opinion, she has done right or good or interpreted the law correctly in this aspect. But also, on the other hand, when you look at I forget the case where the minority judgment was one of which of the Chief Justice himself, where he was supporting her analysis and her linkage between the CR17 case, whereby the emails and the Bosasa donations, there was some sort of link there where she created that he could have possibly benefited in his personal capacity. Those kinds of minority judgments also vindicate her in a little bit, saying that she's not completely off the mark, but perhaps she can just maybe, polish up here and there so she doesn't look as incompetent as it seems that she is.
Dr. Breakfast, do you agree, again, a minority judgment in her favour from the Chief Justice who's on leave? Does that give her more clout as she faces a lot of political pressure and a lot of people are calling for her to resign?
No, of course not. It doesn't. I think we should not only examine what the Chief Justice had said in isolation from the totality of issues at play. There have been a number of judgments that have been critical of the Public Protector, describing her as someone who's not acting in good faith, who's not trustworthy, and so on. So I think clearly she has not been acting ethically. She has been embroiled in some of the factional battles of the ANC. On the other hand, I also think that though the president is not off the hook, I think it's still early days. It will be interesting how the turn of events are going to unfold, chanting a way forward.
All right, and I want to talk about the president, but staying with you, Dr. Breakfast, how far can the criticism go of Busisiwe Mkhwebane? Because she does, as she says, head a Chapter 9 institution that is important. The Public Protector's Office is very important. So she often rightly says, look, don't undermine my job. But where does that leave the people who believe that she's not fit for office?
Yeah, look, I think those Chapter 9 institutions are meant to support our constitutional democracy. They should not be used in some political battles. If you are a public protector, the concept of a public protector speaks for itself. You are meant to protect the public, not to protect a particular faction. So I don't think that she has been acting in good faith. I think she has been an extension of the forces of radical economic transformation, because when she came into the picture, there was too much attention that she paid to the people who are aligned to the president. I'm not saying that those people should not be held answerable. I'm just saying that you can't pay attention to one group of people and then turn a blind eye to another group of people. So I think the judgment of today is going to amplify the call for her to resign.
Yeah, like you said earlier, and let's go to Ms. Dubazana. This isn't very clear cut this time around because there is a minority judgment again. But how strong do you think the court was today, or how damning was what the court said? Let's just look at some of it. It said that she was mixing things up. How could the president inadvertently and very consciously mislead Parliament? Those are two very different things that she conflated. It says she raised money laundering and several parties being involved when there was only one account. I mean, how serious do you take this judgment, the wording of it today?
The words that he also used, I think, was that she had in front of her the emails that she had received upon doing her investigations. She also had in front of her the one bank statement that was linked to the CR17. And then the judge also said that with that in front of her, there was no link between the two. There was no correlation between the two. And therefore, there was no evidence of money laundering. Then how did she then get to this conclusion? Now, the minority judgment, okay, the majority judgment is saying that as a result, they too cannot see that link, and therefore she too should have been in a position not to see that there's a link between her investigation into the personal accounts of the president versus the Bosasa donations to the CR17 donation. But yet the dissenting judgment is saying that the emails and the bank accounts have that there was some kind of relation between the two parties. In fact, in the beginning of his judgment, he actually did mention the presiding officer and said that to them there is some kind of relation that is a little bit disturbing between the president and the Bosasa portfolio or people pertaining to the CR17. Yeah. So they do acknowledge that. But at the same time, the link that they say that the public protector did not establish seems to have been there in any event. Perhaps if we had access to the bank statements that were closed off, the personal bank statements that were closed off, there could have been even more of a link that was discovered between the personal account of the president versus that of the CR17 account. So
do you agree then with Dr. Breakfast that this wasn't a clear win for the president, who obviously doesn't want the books to be opened, as it were, and Mkhwebane had to pay their costs, and they are going to continue fighting to have the CR17 funding released?
Yes, I agree with it, with my colleague there, 100%. Because once those accounts are released, they might paint a completely different picture versus what we heard today. Because it seems that the Constitutional Court has sort of cut the public protector's portfolio at the knees and say that you've gone over and beyond your scope of duty, and therefore you overstepped yourself. So now what must happen in the event of such a situation arising again? What is the public protector to do? Is she now, or the person who will hold that office, are they now going to be limited in what they can investigate because of this judgment? Or if the High Court matter then decides otherwise after the accounts are now opened, and then there is that link, will they then refer it back to the Constitutional Court, whereby the court can say, oh, okay, the limitation that we had put on you on the previous ruling, let us move them now, because now there's evidence that there's a link between the accounts and the CR17 campaign. All
right, Dr. Breakfast, let's end it with you. What do you think the political implications are if down the line, eventually, the president or his campaign people are forced to open that funding information?
Well, the president ascended to the helm of power on a ticket of good governance. So I think he needs to lay bare the facts. He needs to lead by example. In the domain of politics, there are no freebies. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So we want to know whether is there an economic exchange between those people who funded his campaign and the people who have been getting tenders of late So we want to see if there is a linkage there. So I think this issue is in the public interest, the issue of who funded the president.
All right, thank you both very much, political analyst Ntsikelelo Benjamin Breakfast, and also there for us, MD at Dubazana Attorneys, and Nthabiseng Dubazana herself.